Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. Today I wanted to share with you my 5 favorite homeschool resources for 2022. About 5 years ago, when I first started this channel, I did a favorite homeschooling resources video then too. And I had a lot more favorites at that point in time. More because I was also including things like school supplies. And this time I'm only including the resources that we use for the actual lessons themselves, not the things that we use to write with or the notebooks that we use or anything of that matter. So I hope to give you some ideas. And if you've never been here before, first of all, I have to say that we are a relaxed homeschooling family. I have 11 children, but I'm only homeschooling 6 because the rest of my children are all now adults. We are, I don't know if I mentioned it, I have very short-term memory apparently. Relaxed homeschoolers. We kind of take a mixture of different types of homeschooling styles and we put them into our homeschool philosophies that I think will fit well with us is what I typically use. So we have a lot of unschooling philosophy. We really do a lot of interest-led learning. I give my children lots of time to explore their own interests. But since we do have a larger crew than most people, we do need that routine that comes with a little bit of a basic homeschool routine. That really does help us. I know that there are larger families who do unschooling all the time and do well with it and have their own sort of routine that doesn't involve doing homeschool lessons. But with us, this is what works. We also incorporate a lot of Charlotte Mason homeschooling into our lessons. We do a lot of copy work. We do notebooking, which I would consider, like a Charlotte Mason, maybe even a classical method. We do a lot of nature study. Nature study is huge in our house, especially in the warmer weather. We live in a great area for that. There's lots of trails around us and canals, and it's just a beautiful place to live and to homeschool in. And we use a lot of living books. And so the last style that we use is like a unit study approach. So that's, if you don't know what a unit study is, I will leave links in the description boxes, but it's basically where you choose a topic and you approach all of the subject areas with that one topic. So say like George Washington, you might learn, of course, use him for history. You could use learning about George Washington for civics. You could have them copy down some of George Washington's famous sayings as copywork. So that could even be used as language arts. Reading a biography of his would count for reading, certainly. Writing a report on him, learning about his inventions, because I believe that George Washington also had inventions, or was it Thomas Jefferson? You can tell that I need to brush up on my history too. And actually, we're starting a unit study on our founding fathers, and the government next week. So as you can see, I'm going to need that too. But I'm just saying that you can use that also for science. You could draw a portrait of George Washington, or you could study the paintings of, I believe it was him crossing the Delaware that there are paintings of. So many different areas that you can just conquer with one topic, which is what unit studies are. So leaving that there, I'm going to show you my first favorite resource, which has to do with unit studies. This is our main unit study resource. It's Konos. You could also call it Konus, which is how I say it. That's probably wrong. I do believe it's Konos, but I say it like I've always said it. This is volume 3. There are 3 volumes. I have done most of volume 1, most of volume 2, and I just started doing volume 3 with my children this year with the human body unit study that we're finishing up on. So if you're not sure what this is, I'm just going to give you a brief overview. Each section is based on a certain character. Oh my gosh, I can't even think of the word. Character trait. A certain character trait. So we have cooperation, determination, honesty, resourcefulness, joy, and cheerfulness. And so I won't go through the whole list with you, but like, for example, in cooperation, the units are systems of the body, bees, states and regions, town and community, family and church. And I'll just also show you the ones for, we'll just say honesty. Books, newspaper, and other media. That's going to be interesting when we get to that, when you talk about honesty and the media. And maybe they should do it too. And business and advertising. So that's just the sorts of things that are covered in volume 3 at least. Now, the government unit study that we're starting is actually in volume 2. I'm just showing you my volume 3 book because they all basically have the same setup. And volume 2 looks like it's gone through a war since we've used it like 3 or 4 years now. And it just wouldn't have looked very nice for me to show you. So anyway, each of the CONUS unit studies comes with verses. It's a Christian character curriculum. So if you are looking for something that is Christian, yeah, it's Christian based. If you are not looking for something with a Christian approach, you could certainly tweak this, but it does come with a Christian worldview. So we use the Bible verses as copywork. It also comes with vocabulary words for each unit. And so what I've been doing with my older kids is I've been assigning them 8 words a week from the vocabulary for the human body unit study that we've been doing. And they have all week to find the definitions of them. And again, this is just my older children. My younger children, I'm still using just natural speller that they write 3 times each. And that's all that they do for spelling. But my older children, I do want them to know what these words mean, obviously. So, for example, some of the words are endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, Golgi bodies, cytoplasm, mitochondria, cell theory. So, as you can see, that's why I didn't have my younger children doing them. So anyway, so there are vocabulary words at the beginning of each unit study. There is also a list of books that they suggest that you use. Now, I have to say that these unit studies were written in the 1980s. So in this section, the books that they recommend to you are all going to be written pre-1980, whenever they wrote this. They do have a section in the front of the newer ones, the ones that have more recently been printed. And they do have more recent books in here, but even these are probably from like 90s, early 2000s. I don't think this is really that up to date, but that doesn't matter to me because, to be quite honest, I trust older books more than I trust newer books because you just never know what you're going to find in books nowadays. So I would prefer to use books that are pre-1980s anyway. Obviously, some things science related might have been updated since then, but for the most part, I think that you're much safer using the older books anyway. It also has activities for you to do with your children, and you certainly do not need to do all of the activities, because if you did do all of the activities, you would be doing this one volume probably for about 15 years. So just pick the ones that you think your children would enjoy the most, the ones that you would like doing with them, or the ones that you think they might need the most, might be most helpful to them. Now, as you can see, after each activity, they do include what subjects that covers. So if you have to keep records of your homeschool, that's very helpful. Or some people just like to keep records of their homeschool. So again, it's very helpful for them too. And, I'll just give you some examples of the things that were done in the unit study. So for example, here's one. It says, have younger children label the body parts. So I just photocopied this for my children. For my older children, though, I actually tweaked it because that's another thing I have to say. This can be used from kindergarten through high school. It says kindergarten to 8th grade. I tweak it for high school. I'm going to give you an example of how. So for my 2 high schoolers, my 2 oldest kids who are being homeschooled, I didn't want to just have them label parts of the body. So I went online and I found a worksheet of the skeletal system with lines, for them to label each of the bones of the body. And that is what I had them do. They had to find out what the bones were called. So that's something that you can do with unit studies. If you have younger children versus older children, you just make the lessons a little bit harder for the older kids. And it's pretty simple to figure out ways to do that. Or sometimes if some of the lessons seem a little more advanced and aren't really good for the younger children, you can always make make them more basic for your children. And, it's really just a matter of judgment and knowing your own kids. So some other examples are learn the systems of the body. Learn the location of the major organs of the body. Write out the following words and have the child pin them onto himself or someone else. Heart, kidneys, liver, stomach, lungs, urinary bladder, and so on. And we actually did this one. So I wrote all of the body parts on index cards, and each of my children got a partner, and they had to tape. We didn't pin it because I wasn't going to trust that, but I had them tape it to their partner. So my kids that got stuff like the brain and everything, pituitary gland, they really liked sticking stuff to their partner's head. They had a lot of fun, but you can bet that they're going to remember these things more because they had so much fun doing them. So that is really why I hugely enjoy Kono's curriculum. And I have to say that between volume 1, 2, and 3, I have used this for 10 years now. So this is a keeper. This is the longest resource that we have used. Other things have come and gone over the years. Some things we have kept for a few years now, but nothing has been 10 years out of the 14 like Kono's was. And if I had found it when we first started, I probably would have been using it from the very beginning then also. So the next thing is multiplication and division drill books. And I also have an addition and subtraction one for my youngest. And I have to say that a couple years ago, if you would have told me that this was one of my favorite resources, I would have scoffed, because I was always talking about how speed drills were drill and kill and how it was a good way to get kids to hate math. And I still believe that drill and kill is bad to an extent. So if you give a child 50 long division problems, yes, that is certainly going to make them hate math. But when it comes to the basics like multiplication, division, basic addition, basic subtraction, sometimes you really do need the drill in order for your children to get it. I tried so many things. I was so adamant about not doing any sort of drills because I was just, rote memorization was just, I was like, no rote memorization in our house. And I know that I was wrong now. Again, I don't think that it's great for everything, but there are some things that it is necessary. When it comes to multiplication, I tried everything with some of my children. I did flashcards with them. I had them make their own flashcards. I had them make their own multiplication charts. I let them use the multiplication chart over and over again, thinking eventually they'll just remember, but nope, they had to keep using it. They were using their fingers, and I was thinking, okay, eventually they're not going to have to use their fingers anymore. Nope, they still had to use their fingers. I tried learning multiplication through mnemonics with times tables, which did work for one of my children. The rest of them, no, it did not help. And I just got to the point where I'm pulling my hair out trying to think, how am I going to get my children to remember their multiplication like this? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try one of these drill books. And lo and behold, this is what worked. Now, I don't time them. It says 5-minute drills. I don't time them. I just have my children that need it complete a page every day. And it has worked wonders. And now, my stubbornness, I'm thinking, how much time did I waste being stubborn, not wanting to use one of these books? But you know what? You learn from your mistakes, and now I'm able to hopefully help some of you with my mistake also. So yes, this is one of my favorite homeschooling resources now, and I wish that I would have just been willing to try it sooner. So my next favorite homeschooling resource, I don't actually have anything to show you here with me physically because it is CTC Math. We have been using it probably for about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years now. And it's just one of those math programs that just clicked for my kids. We've tried several different ones. This is the longest math program that we've used. And what I like about CTC Math is that the videos that come with the lessons, they're not really long and drawn out. the narrator, he really explains things in an easy to understand way. And actually, I think it's a very innovative way sometimes, something that I never even thought of, some of the things that he says. And I'm like, oh, now I get that. I never understood that when I was in school. It is not Common Core. I would not use anything Common Core. So if you're wondering about that, it is not. But the lessons that come with it are short. Again, I'm not one for making kids hate math by having to do, an hour of math problems. So the lessons are usually, I'd say, about 10 problems long. But if your children want to, or if you want them to, you can just click on more questions, and then they can get more questions, and then they can keep doing them. And the neat thing now is, before, when I used to ask my children, do you want to do more questions? Most of the time they would be like, no, why would we do more questions? Because I always left it up to them. But now they actually incorporated what they call like mastery stars, where I think they need 4 stars in order to be considered to have mastered a lesson. And if they do 1 lesson, they will only get 2 or 3 mastery stars. So it doesn't affect like the actual percentage of whatever they got right and wrong. It just, it's just something extra. But my kids, they want that 4th mastery star. So now when they're doing it, I would say about 85% of the time, when I say to my children, do you want to do more questions? They will now say yes, because when they do more questions, they can keep going until they get that 4th mastery star. And then yes, then they will stop. They could keep going, but at this point, my children are like, nope, I got the last star, I'm done. But hey, that's good enough for me. So those are like really the things that I like the most about CTC Math. And I will leave a link in the description box. I have reviewed it on my channel here, so you can get a better look at it there. My next favorite homeschooling resource, and these aren't in any particular order, but the next one is my library card. Because first of all, I obviously need lots of books for the CONUS unit study, because they use living books. They use trade books. They use, nonfiction, biography. All of the books that you would get at the library is what we are using with our CONUS. Plus, on top of that, my children do interest-led notebooking. So they get the books for their interest-led notebooks also at the library. So this is invaluable to me, and it especially helps that now my library doesn't make you pay fines anymore. So isn't that awesome? Are they doing that everywhere? I know that a lot of libraries are doing that. The last thing, and certainly not the least, is the Bible. Because, we have to be honest. In this day and age, God's Word is the only word, the only book that I trust 100%, because there can be mistakes made in books. There can be biases in books. There can be things purposely left out, mistakenly left out, added. You just don't know. And that's why when I am teaching my children a lot of things, I always tell them to take things with a grain of salt, because the only word that we know 100% that we can fall back on is this. And we use it in our homeschool every day. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.